everybody, how's it going? So, last week we kicked things off with a quick little group stretch, but this week I thought we'd just kick it up a notch and see really who's the stretchiest person here. So you've got an advantage because right now on video it's just between me and you, but if we were in person, it's gonna get pretty intense. So I have a series of challenges that I want all of us to try, and we'll just see who can do the most. And the first one is to just touch your toes. And I don't mean just give it the old toe touch. I mean, let's bend down and see if you can get them. I know you can't see it down here. That's the good stuff. All right, the next one, super simple. Can you lick your elbow? This is not super simple. Any elbow lickers out there? I can't quite get it. Not to the point. I don't mean like around your elbow. I want you to get it. I can't do it. Next one, raise one eyebrow. Do this thing. I can't do that. My eyebrows, they're linked. I can't do it. Can you wiggle your ears? I've got that one a little bit. Nice. Anyone touch your tongue to your nose? I got there. It's a little wet. Nice. All right, we'll finish with the grand finale. Who can lean back and grab their ankles? Whoops. Clearly I've got some work to do on my stretches, but I hope you were able to do that one. If you can, post it and tag Revive, because that would be incredible. I think that's just an impossible human thing. But anyway, last week we started out the series by talking about how you can stretch your faith with a commitment. And I talked about how we can commit to showing up or following Jesus, loving God, loving people, or asking questions. And I hope those commitments have been going super well for you this week. If not, that's fine. Let's get after them this week. There's no better day to start than today. There's an old Chinese proverb that I love, and it says, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is right now. Which is basically saying, it would have been better to commit to this long ago, but here we are. And so let's start right now. And when it comes to our faith, I think there's no better time to take it seriously than right now. I know it can be super easy to just put our faith on the back burner and not really think about it because, you're young and you have a lot going on in your life, but I'd argue that that's actually the worst thing that you could do. When I was your age, I wish so much that I would have taken my faith more seriously. Now, right now, let me just tell you a little bit of my story really quick. I grew up in a house where we would sometimes go to church on Sunday. We definitely went on Christmas and Easter, but we never talked about faith or Jesus outside of church. And I also grew up being really good at the sports that I played, which took up a lot of my time. I played basketball and baseball, hockey, and golf, and I loved it. I also loved making sure people knew that I was better at them at whatever it was that I was playing. And I was also in a choir, which I know it doesn't sound super cool on the surface, but I was a soloist in the top choir, and I got to travel the world for 5 weeks every year when we went on tour to countries like New Zealand and Australia, Germany, France, Austria, Switzerland, Ireland, Scotland. I think I've been to Iceland 10 times, and so many more countries and cities too. I was one of the better singers in that choir, and I like people to know that too, that I'm better than you. I was competitive and really a jerk. But that jerkiness, it came out of this place of insecurity because I never really thought that I was good enough or would ever be good enough. And so what I did was take it out on the people around me. I made fun of people. I made fun of my teachers. I talked back to them just to get a laugh. I was a bully. I made fun of whoever I needed to feel cool for just a second. Because that's what it was all about for me. Being cooler than you, and you, and you, and you, and I'm cooler than everybody. And yet, no matter how popular I was or how cool I felt, I was hurting on the inside. I never felt good enough. I was always anxious. And the people I hung out with, all we did was try to be better than the other or tear each other down. But, it's fine, man. I was just joking around. Settle down, bro. We didn't talk like that, but a little bit. I don't know. It was weird. But we'd go to parties and we'd live it up as if we weren't just living in our parents' house and 100% reliant on them buying our clothes and groceries and the house that we lived in. And after years of being one of those popular kids, or what I thought was a popular kid, all of a sudden, I just wasn't anymore. I had to switch schools in 8th grade for a year, and all of my friends decided that I wasn't really cool enough for them anymore, and I went back to high school And all of a sudden, I wasn't able to hang out with those same people. I felt completely alone because I had nowhere to fit in. All of a sudden, I was the one getting picked on in the locker room and at school, and I really felt like I had nowhere to go and no one to be with. I didn't think God cared and thought that, if he was real, my purpose in life was probably over. And I got to a pretty dark place. And I was there for a few years because I didn't know what to do. Like, everything that I thought was most important was gone from my life. Like my friends, sports, choir, popularity, a healthy family. Like, I just felt like there was nothing that I could hold on to. Nothing felt solid. And so I just kind of stopped caring. And I went a little bit numb to the world around me because that was easier than feeling worried and hurt and sad about everything. I just gave up because I thought if there was a God, he certainly gave up on me. But then, my junior year of high school, a guy in my homeroom, he invited me to go to the gym with him. And obviously I went a ton and became a professional bodybuilder. But after my reign as Mr. Universe ended, David and I became friends. And he invited me to his church. The only problem was I hated church. It was so incredibly boring. Maybe some of you are resonating with young Jeff right now. I hope not. I hope you're not super bored. But I went to church because I needed a friend. And then Mike was the youth pastor. He was my youth pastor. And I realized, church doesn't have to be boring. And my life, it wasn't like an overnight change, but I did commit to showing up. And so I did. Even when I had homework or I didn't always feel like it, I showed up. And then after a while, I actually started listening to what Mike was saying and realized that faith is totally different than I ever thought or had heard. Like, it's not about how good I am or how hard I try or if I'm doing the right things. It's about what Christ did for me. Like, he did the work so that I could know him. And that was incredibly freeing. Again, not immediately, but over time, like, my self-worth grew, my self-esteem grew, my friend circle grew, my confidence grew, my hope grew. And it may sound weird, but I began to feel again. Anxiousness that slowly slipped away, and in its place was peace and grace and love. And not a love and friendship that I continuously had to show off and work for, but one that's just unconditional and just likes me for me. Now, there have been so many bumps and even canyons along the journey. But can I tell you something about faith that I don't think is said enough or a lot? Faith, it's a journey. Like, it's not an overnight snap of the fingers, life is perfect decision. Like, it's a journey. Like, I've been following Jesus for over 10 years now, and guess what? Do I still struggle with anxiety sometimes? Yep. Do I still lack confidence in myself and have low self-esteem at times? Yes. Do I compare myself to others? Yeah. Do I wish that I would have started following Jesus earlier so that I could possibly have avoided some of the habits and hurts that I faced during my journey? 100%. Now, let me just say, that is such a short snapshot of my story, but one of the main things that I've learned along the way is that as inconsistent as I can be, like the times that I focus on myself and get selfish and prideful, and then because of that I feel anxious and self-conscious, in those moments, God is always consistent. He has always been there to remind me and pull me out of the pit that I tend to dig myself into. And rather than scolding me for what I've done wrong, he wraps me up and says, I am free. And that gives me more peace and freedom than I've ever been able to create for myself by showing off. And that's why I follow Jesus. Not because I'm supposed to or because it makes life perfect, but I found in my life that I have so much more purpose and peace and joy and hope when I'm living for Jesus than when I'm living for myself. Now, I would love to talk more specifics of my story because I've been through a lot, but what's cool is that now I can take what I've learned, like how I've grown and what God has taught me through some of those experiences, and share them with you so that you don't have to make those same mistakes. Like, that's why listening to old people is awesome, because then you don't have to go through the same junk that they have. Like, you can learn from their mistakes, and I can't say I've been through it all, but I will say that I don't think you could say anything that would surprise me. Like something that you're going through or feeling, I don't think that there's much out there that either I haven't experienced myself, I haven't seen in close friends or family, or know someone who's gone through that themselves. And when it comes to breaking free from things like anxiety or loneliness or self-confidence, addiction, or anything else that you're going through, the best part about Jesus is he's waiting there to embrace you with open arms. And he doesn't expect you to have it all figured out before you come to him. He says, "Come to me, all who are broken, and I will give you rest." You see, God, he calls us to stretch our faith, but he doesn't ask us to have superhuman flexibility from the beginning. Like, I can assure you that I didn't. Like, I was stiff and a little too stubborn at times to even bend just a little. But the more that I would show up, the more that I would listen and ask questions, the more I started to be able to flex just a little bit. And then soon enough, I could reach my knees and then my shins and then my ankles and finally my toes. But it didn't happen overnight. Like, I love in Romans 12, 1-2, where Paul says, "So here's what I want you to do. Take your everyday, ordinary life, like you're sleeping, eating, going to school, and walking around life, and place it before God as an offering. Because embracing what God does for you is the best thing that you can do for him. Don't become so well adjusted to your culture that you fit into it without even thinking. Instead, fix your attention on God. You'll be changed from the inside out. Take the time to recognize what he wants from you and quickly respond to it. Because unlike the culture around you, which is always dragging you down to its level of immaturity, God brings the best out of you and develops well-formed maturity in you." Paul, he kind of lays out what it's like to live as a Christian in this world. And if I could sum it up in one word, it wouldn't be perfection. It wouldn't be sinless. It wouldn't be doesn't experience hurt. Okay, that wasn't one word, but you get it. Paul, he doesn't say any of that. He describes a life of transformation. That's the goal. Like, following Jesus isn't just a prayer that we pray once and then forget about. Following Jesus is about being totally transformed. And there's a lot of different ways that we can do that. Like last week, I talked about how we can make a commitment. And this week, the big idea is to just try something new. Like, you can stretch your faith by starting something new. Like, you can stretch your faith by starting a new habit that helps you connect with God, like setting a time aside to read your Bible every day or pray, or starting a new devotional on the Bible app with your friends. But you can also add new habits that help you love others more, like setting reminders to encourage your friends every week, or writing out a daily Bible verse or something on your family chalkboard or bathroom mirror. Like, no matter what it is, the important thing is that you commit to starting something new. And maybe it has something to do with one of the 5 challenges from last week. Like, maybe you remember them. The first one was just to show up. The second, follow Jesus. The third, love God. The fourth, love people. And the last one, if you're not sure about all of this, commit to asking questions. Revive will always, always, always be a place where you can ask your unfiltered questions, no matter what you believe. And like I said last week, I can't promise I'll know all of the answers every single time right off the bat, but I can commit to working as hard as I can to help find an answer with you. So this week, let's stretch our faith. Like, let's embrace this Christian life of transformation and commit to starting something new that will bring us one step closer to Jesus in the process.